Hey, Leslie, thanks for joining in here. And we are very excited to have you. Hey, everyone. I have Leslie here with me today. She is a co-founder of Newsletter Glue, and she also is joining from Singapore. So, Leslie, one thing I noticed about your website and Twitter handle that you have lots of pizza in that. So, tell me a little bit more about that.
Hey, Neil. Thanks for having me on the show. Really excited to be here. Um, actually, well, I really like pizza a lot, but the real reason why it's Leslie Pizza everywhere was because I really like looking at top line domains, and there are actually so many fun ones that exist, and I'm surprised that more people don't do this. Just by their name dot something. So you can even buy, Anil dot whale or Anil dot coffee. Um, and because there are so many of them, and a lot of them are not that popular, you can actually get your first name for quite a lot of them. Um, so Leslie dot pizza was one of the ones that I bought because I thought it sounded kind of fun. And then it just became easy to use that everywhere else.
Yeah. And no, I love that. And in fact, I think it just kind of creates a unique identity and personality of yours, right? Like where it can also be a great icebreaker for the conversations too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. And I also read in your profile that you are professional or like, very much interested into ultimate frisbee.
Yeah,
Yeah, tell us a
that's
little bit
right.
more about that.
I've played for almost 20 years now, on and off. But right now I'm more into coaching. So I'm coaching, there's like a World Beach tournament coming up in LA in November. So I'm um coaching the team for that. And then I'm also helping to coach a club team. So yeah, I really enjoy coaching and get a lot out of it. It's, I guess with sports, it's a lot more linear than business. You can coach somebody and train them, mentor them, and you can see them improving step by step. There aren't so many question marks like you get with business where you're not sure if the thing that you're going to do is going to work or the thing that you're going to do is going to make you money. With with sports, the win or lose is very, very clear. And so you can just work towards winning and improving. And so when you have that as a vessel, this kind of very linear, easy to train um, sport, then you can also learn a lot about coaching, managing, teaching people. How do you talk to a group of people? How do you structure training? How do you um, break things down? All of these like small skills you can learn and get better at because you have this vessel of like a pretty simple thing that you can do. I'm not sure if that makes sense or if it's too abstract.
Yeah. No, but like, is that something do you still play?
I haven't played for a long time. The last time I was competitive was 2016, but I'm trying to get back into it. But it's difficult. There's a lot of uh, gym work and field preparation work and all of that um, to to do. So I'm doing it, but it takes a while.
Nice. Yeah, I my performance coach long time ago, he told me to get into some kind of team sports or the sports in general. And for some reason, I don't know, just like I just I'm just not good at any sports, and I feel like it has been something that I've been struggling. So yeah, I started with swimming and biking, like more kind of like the exercise slash the solo sports. But yeah, doing a sport is amazing. I think it's very helpful for your brain as well as the other aspect of performance.
Yeah, for sure. I think the social part is something I missed a lot during COVID. So that's actually a huge reason why I got back into coaching as well, because just like being around lots of people and hanging out and having fun. Um, the past 3 years, all the whole world wasn't able to do that. And
Yeah.
so it was kind of lonely and isolating. And so now like coming back to it feels really good.
Nice. Awesome. So let's talk about Newsletter Glue. So you co-founded that a few years ago. So yeah, I would request you to share the story. What's your story and where you are with the Newsletter Glue as of today?
Yeah, so we started right before COVID or at the start of COVID, I guess, in 2020. Before that, I was running an agency and I was kind of really burnt out and I wanted to try something new. So I actually fired a bunch of clients and wound down the agency a little bit. I kept one or two clients that I enjoyed working with, but then I kind of let go of the rest and tried my hand at this product business. So the first thing that I did, because I'm not a developer, I don't code at all. I'm pretty technical, but I just don't like to code. And so I found a co-founder who was looking for a marketing and business co-founder on the Indie Hackers Forum. And I got in touch with him, and he had built a membership plugin at the time. And he was looking for someone to help market it because he had like tried to do it all himself and very quickly realized it was really difficult. And so that's where I came in, and it was a really great plugin. So he was the original and main developer of Ultimate Member. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that plugin, like from a few years ago. It's still very popular with hundreds of thousands of installs on the repo. Um, but yeah, so he had taken all that he had learned there and tried to do it himself, built a better membership plugin. But then we quickly realized with the membership space, it's very, very saturated and there are already lots of great options. And so to convince someone to switch from an option that's already great to ours, like ours needs to be 10 times or 100 times better. Because if they're already like set up everything, there's no reason to switch if they're happy. And I think quite a lot of people are happy with their membership plugins. And so we had a very hard time getting people to switch, and even had a hard time just to get people to try our plugin. And so it wasn't going well, and we were thinking about shutting it down. But while we were trying to build and market this membership plugin, we had built an add-on, a MailChimp add-on that lets you send posts as newsletters. And I was using that add-on for myself, for my own newsletter at the time. And I wasn't sad to see the membership plugin go, but I was sad to lose that add-on because I was using it myself. And while there were many different alternatives for the membership plugin, there wasn't any alternatives for that particular feature, that send post as newsletter add-on that we built. And then it kind of occurred to me, like maybe there's something here. Maybe we can turn that into a plugin. And so we made the decision, okay, we'll shut down the original plugin and we'll pivot and we'll build this add-on into a full plugin. And so that was like the product decision. But then at the same time, there was a lot of marketing stuff that I also had to learn. So even though my background is in marketing and advertising, I worked at an ad agency or various ad agencies over the years before running my own as well. It became very obvious that doing marketing from scratch when you have, I like worked for like giant brands, Nestle, all of them before, but it's very, very different when you're doing it for your own, like from scratch and nobody knows you. And I did like so many things wrongly. We didn't build in public, which I think we learnt from and did with Newsletter Glue. I didn't talk to users enough, so I didn't understand what they needed. I didn't do all the user research to build a better product or like connect with users. So all of those things that we failed to do with the first plugin, we took those things in a pivot and implemented them better the second time around, and it worked. So from day one, our experience with Newsletter Glue was very, very different. We got a lot more people interested in the plugin. We got a lot more people who are trying to promote us and like help us out and lift us up. I spoke to easily a dozen different people to do user research. This was when I was just starting out. I had to learn and read books on user research. Incidentally, the Mom Test is one of the books that I read, which I found really, really excellent. And yeah, so that all helped, and we hit the ground running. And instead of 0 installs trying to beg people to even try us out, I think we got very quickly like 100 installs, maybe in a month or something like that. I can't quite remember. And yeah, so that was a
the free version of the plugin on
yeah.
WordPress.org, and
So
then
we launched the free version first,
okay.
and then I wanted to see like, is this worth doing? And so
Right.
I think within the first week we had, I can't remember what's the smallest number, like 10 plus, right? Or something like that on the repo that will show the number.
Right.
So I think within the first week we got to 10 plus, and we had a test, like a review, like from an anonymous person who had just started using it. So that was really, really awesome. And so that kind of gave me, hope, like, okay, this is something that's worth doing.
Right.
And so we committed and we built the business around it. Yeah, so that was kind of how we started. And then the other like big milestone that I think is worth talking about is we did a repositioning last year, which kind of came to fruition at the start of this year. Basically, we realized we were targeting too many different types of users. So at the start, we were talking to people who were amateur bloggers, just themselves wanting to do some send their own newsletter, all the way to big companies, big newsrooms who are also sending newsletters. They had dedicated newsletter employees. So the types of features that all the different types of customers wanted was really, really varied, and it was really, really tough to do marketing. It was really tough to do product decisions because I didn't know, if we built something for the amateur blogger, it might not be appealing to the large newsroom, and vice versa. And so a lot of work went into last year trying to figure out, how do we commit? How do we say no, like, forever to one whole audience and say yes to another? And we actually built in parallel. So I built out a prototype, an MVP of a version of Newsletter Glue that would work for the amateur bloggers type of people. So those people, basically what they wanted was MailChimp inside of WordPress. So something like MailPoet, but obviously like cheaper and simpler to use and all of that kind of stuff. Right. They liked what we were doing with Newsletter Glue, how we were using the existing block editor, and they just wanted the sending part of it to also be inside of WordPress. So we built all of that out, did a whole bunch of user research, built the prototype. And at the same time as doing that, I was also working on figuring out what Newsletter Glue would look like if we only went for larger customers, like the newsrooms, the media companies, the publishers. And so we were kind of like working in parallel in the background while we were also running the day-to-day business, trying to figure out what is the future of Newsletter Glue, basically. And then eventually we decided that the future of Newsletter Glue is more towards the bigger customers. The main reason is just because we didn't have to change the product too significantly in order to cater to these larger customers. Right. Because the smaller customers, they wanted us to replace MailChimp because they didn't want to pay for MailChimp and us. Whereas the bigger customers, it would be a 6-month project for them to come off of MailChimp. For example, they would have to, do an RFP to get someone to come in to get them to come off of MailChimp and do something else and all of that. So for them, even if they weren't happy with how the MailChimp builder was for them, for their experience, it was very hard for them to move. And so us coming in as a middle layer, as a newsletter builder on top of MailChimp, kind of the glue, that worked really, really well for them. And so it's great when your existing product already works for customers who are willing to pay 10 times more, 100 times more. And so we made that commitment and we repositioned. So rebuilt the site, changed all of the copy, and changed the pricing as well. Changed even the funnel. So now we kind of encourage people to book a demo rather than just purchase the plugin outright. And since then, it's been
one question
really,
I have.
really good.
One question, Lesley, I have there is, because I think that's very interesting that how you originally, the plugin was very different. You wanted to build a membership plugin, and then you realized that this little feature of like a email newsletter or MailChimp integration was something that's kind of like more popular, and that ended up being a main product. And so what I see there is that you saw a need, or you listened to the observed the customers, how your users are using the plugin, and then you decided to change the direction or focusing on something that actually gives much more value. Also, another thing that I also wanted to highlight is that, especially now, as you mentioned, that when it comes to the WordPress, people love WordPress, the options of flexibility, customization, able to create and publish the content. But we have also seen like interest into a no-code tool or low-code tools. So tools like Substack or some other kind of like platform, which helps them to create the content faster. And basically, the platform itself is offering, all those different things. In fact, my own, newsletter is at this moment is on a Substack, because I had the same problem. Like, when I wanted to start a newsletter, I didn't find that many good newsletter plugins for WordPress. And then I was like, okay, I want to focus on just creating the content right now. I don't want to focus on setting up the platform. But what I understand, the problem that Newsletter Glue is solving is that where with your plugin, people who love WordPress, they can continue to have their newsletter, publish it, manage it, and all the aspect of newsletter easily. And so is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Actually, for people with their own personal newsletters, I often recommend Substack as well, like Substack and Beehive. I think they are objectively exactly how you found it, right? They are so much easier to use than MailChimp or trying to do some kind of WordPress plugin type of thing. Especially if they're not technical, it's like, how do you even get someone to learn WordPress, right?
Right.
So incidentally, that was some of the problems that we found. Originally, I thought that our target audience was going to be Substack users and I'll convert them to WordPress. But it was impossible. Like, if you've never used WordPress before, how do you even teach somebody about hosting and how do you set up WordPress? What is a plugin? What is the zip file? Do you open the zip file? It's really impossible.
Understand. So you're not targeting. So Substack users are not the target for the newsletter glue, but the big enterprises or the publishers who needs to control the entire newsletter publishing or manage the newsletter publishing, that will be the right fit, right?
Yeah. So big publishers, newsrooms, media companies, the ones who have really embraced WordPress as their publishing platform.
Right.
Often they want to bring their newsletters into their publishing platform because their team is already really familiar with WordPress. If you have reporters and journalists and writers who have used WordPress for 10, 15 years, it's actually a huge win for them when you can say, oh, you can write your newsletter in WordPress as well. So we have a lot of customers where the people that we onboard is the product manager or the head developer. And then they later tell me that when they are onboarding the rest of their team, the team is always really happy and it's very easy to onboard them because they're already just doing what they're doing every day.
Right. So do you mind sharing maybe a couple names of the publishers who are already using Newsletter Glue at this moment?
Yeah, so we have WBUR, which they've been using us for quite a while already, a number of years.
Okay.
So WBR is the Boston, I'm not sure if branch is the correct word, of NPR. And they have a team of writers who are newsletter specific. And then Daily Dot. So I think they've been slowly migrating more and more newsletters over to us, but they started with their influencer newsletter called Passion Fruit.
Okay.
And so they've been using us for a while as well. And then we have a lot of smaller local newsrooms who use us. There's one called Sarasota Bites, and they talk about food in Sarasota. California Sun. There's a WNBA newsletter that uses us as well. So there's quite a wide range of niche news organizations that use us. Food Fix is another great one. I think she was like a journalist from a number of big newspapers, and then she came out by herself to focus on food, like nutrition, where our food is coming from, and all of that kind of stuff. And she uses us as well. Yeah, so those are kind of the type of customers that I really enjoy working with and have helped over the years.
Those are really good names. Well done there. Those are really good names in the publishing industry. And I think I will also share a little bit of story about how I found you, So in the past, we noticed that some of our enterprise clients that we work with in multi-dots, with their WordPress migration or customization. So at the time, some of them asked for a newsletter solution, and we were just turning them down and saying that we don't think so that there is any better solution. But that's where I think we found your plugin, and me and my team found your plugin, and we started to kind of play with. We bought some features and videos and demos, and I thought it was really cool, And so now we are planning to learn a little bit more about it, and our technical architect team is also playing with it. And at some point, we would, if somebody else asks in the future for a newsletter solution, we would like to recommend some right solutions for that. And Newsletter Glue is is one of the potential solutions that we want to add into our list. So
thanks. Super nice to hear that.
So Lesley, the next question I have is, at this moment, what kind of your team size looks like, and how long since you launched Newsletter Glue? How long it has been since you launched that?
We started in 2020.
2020. So it has been like 2.5 years?
3. I would say about that. Right. Coming on 3 years.
Got it. So is there anything about the Newsletter Glue, your team size, clients, or anything that you want to share?
So our team right now is me, my co-founder. We have a marketing person. So my co-founder's name is Ahmed, and coincidentally, my marketing person's name is also Ahmed. So it gets confusing sometimes.
Interesting.
Because it looks like my co-founder's writing all the blog posts. So we have a marketing person, and then we also hire some writers so that he's not the only one writing everything. So he's kind of transitioned more into an editor role. And we also have a really, really wonderful support person named Maro. And so an interesting thing about our support, we hired a support person, I think, a year ago, and then that didn't work out. And then so Ahmed and I were doing support for the last 6 months of last year. So in 2022, we were doing the support ourselves, and we were just starting to feel really, really overwhelmed. And I think this is something that a lot of plugin founders can probably relate to when they're newer, like at a similar stage as us, where it's like on one hand, you want to give really good support, and it's really hard to find somebody who can do it and you don't have the time to train them. And so it's like, okay, then I just do it myself anyway. And you get stuck in this horrible cycle. And it got really, really bad because the two of us were getting burnt out from just doing support instead of working on the product or doing marketing. And eventually I committed, we just have to hire somebody. It's like really not working anymore. And so we found Maro. I think I increased the price, and I said that I was looking for a senior support, the technical support person. And so we found him, and he's just like been so great. We like threw him into the deep end. I was like overseas when he first came on board, so it was not much help from me. And he was able to just go in immediately and take on a lot of the work. Any questions, we just talk about it in Slack. And yeah, it's just been really awesome.
Nice. So you're under 5, right? The team size?
Yeah.
Nice. That's a good team.
Yeah. And we have another part-time developer as well who kind of helped with additional work.
Nice. Great. So yeah, I think a lot of what I see is that in WordPress community or in general, there are so many young entrepreneurs, who wants to actually create a product or plugin in WordPress space. So my next question for you is that, like, how did you get your first 10 customers? Like, what was your strategy? What did you do in order to get your first 10 paid customers?
I spent a lot of time on Twitter.
Okay.
That was all I did. Twitter and posting to Slack, I think, were the two places that I spent my time to get new customers. I think if you talk about what you're doing, if you build in public, and if you are earnest about it, and if you engage with people, talk to them, get to know their products, people actually want to help you. And so you're basically opening yourself up to be helped. And that's basically what I did.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What were you writing on Twitter? Was it more targeted to the WordPress community or publisher?
WordPress community. So that was one of the early mistakes, but I'm not sure I would call it a mistake. But at the time, I guess I didn't know better. I didn't know who my exact target audience was. So at the time, I thought, okay, I need to target hardcore WordPress users and maybe like the influencers and get them to talk about the plugin rather than going straight to my audience directly. So the good and bad, the end result is that I got to know a lot of prominent people in the WordPress community. And that's been really great, having being able to talk to plugin owners who are further along than me, and I can ask them questions. And they can give me really great advice. But obviously they're not users. So yeah, on one hand, I now have like really great connections, but on the other hand, maybe it would have been better to talk directly to publishers, and then I would have been able to get more customers that way.
Right. Actually, what I learned is that when Multidos is our main, Multidos is more like service and custom projects. But then 3 years ago, I launched Multicollab. That's more like Google Docs style collaboration plugin. And what I realized, so at that time, I was also struggling with the same question, that where should I focus, the WordPress community and influencers or the publishers? And I talked to a lot of different plugin owners. And one thing that I learned from that which was actually very interesting, and that also gave me more clarity and confidence in order to focus on the right kind of marketing message and channel for Multicollab. So what I learned is that if we look at the WordPress community or ecosystem, right, a lot of different themes, plugins, are that recommended or suggested by the other WordPress experts and agencies to their clients. So for some reason, the publishing community is not super involved directly, in the WordPress with the WordPress system. So it's not something that they are like consuming a lot of WordPress informations or content, right? So I was having a hard time with the same, like trying to kind of get to and like finding like where all these publishers or content publishers or digital writers actually hang out, right? Like if there is any group there, and it was very hard to find that. And it was also taking a lot of time and energy and efforts. So then when I realized that, all right, so for our product, we know that there are two different users. One is agencies and experts, like WP experts, who might not be the users themselves, but they are the one who is going to buy the license or invest in this plugin for their clients or the customers they work with. And then the publisher. So the strategy that we adopted, and we are still on that, is like we are doing 80% WordPress and 20% publisher at this moment. So we are still creating the content for the publishers, but we know that at this moment, we are not getting that bigger results. But the more we promote our plugin within the WordPress community, we have a higher chance of success. And once we kind of consume all the bandwidth and resources within the WordPress, once we see that there is no much room for us to grow within the WordPress community, I think that's a point where I will think about going outside as well. But to your point, I think that makes 100% sense, that if you're just starting, you want to get first 10 clients, it's better that you start talking about that in public and talk about that more in where WordPress community hang out.
Yeah, I think the WordPress community is also a lot more inviting, right? Because especially for you, you already have a reputation in WordPress. So when you say something, people in WordPress are definitely going to listen. Whereas if you say something, publishers, someone, journalist in the at Forbes, they're not going to know who you are, Multidots is. And so they're less likely to listen. And so I think all of that makes a big difference, right? Like if you try to do a talk at WordCamp, you're probably going to get accepted. If there's like a trade show talk for publishers, at some other conference, it's going to be much harder. So yeah, I totally agree. That was my experience as well.
Yeah. All right. So from 10, like once you have your first 10 customer, in order to scale and grow from 10 to 100 or more, is there anything different that you did?
I would say not really. I think 10 to 100 was pretty much the same, just keep going, keep working at it. I did a lot of podcasts and online conferences. Just like all of that kind of stuff. I did, I think in a year I did 30 or something like that. Nice. And going from zero, because I had not done any of that before. So from 0 to 30 was quite a lot, and it kind of took over my life a little bit. So I just kept on doing that, kept on grinding, kept on talking on Twitter. And by the way, the conferences and podcast invitations came from Twitter and came from being active in the Post Status Slack group. I don't think I would have gotten any of those invitations if people hadn't heard about me beforehand. So I think, again, I want to come back to the importance of building in public and talking about it regularly. I do want to say, though, that I think Twitter is very, very different these days. The algorithm has changed, the whole Elon Musk thing.
Yeah.
So, for example, previously I can get hundreds of likes and like thousands and thousands of views. Now when I tweet, it's like 1 or 2 likes. So things have changed quite dramatically. So maybe that's not a great place anymore. I've heard LinkedIn is really good these days. So I think if someone was starting out, that might be a platform I'd explore.
Right. I've also observed the same thing in between Twitter and LinkedIn, that if you publish any content on Twitter and post any link to external website, then your post will not get that many views. But if your post doesn't have any external links, it's just the content, then Twitter will treat you well. But LinkedIn, I think, does a really good job in terms of like if you are consistently writing something on a LinkedIn, then yeah, you will get a very better the impressions and clicks and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. So one thing I can see from 10 to 100, I think from 10 to 100 or more, focusing more on doing the podcast interview and talking more about the plugin and the product or something that's helpful. And you said that you did 30 podcasts. Were they all within the WordPress community, or did you try to do anything
all
outside?
WordPress.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. I think for me, I very quickly realized that someone has to have a WordPress site before they would be interested in using us. We are not WooCommerce, so someone's not going to learn WordPress just to use us.
Right.
Whereas, people learn WordPress to use WooCommerce, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, from that learning, that dictated a lot of where I spent my time.
Makes sense. Okay. So now let's talk about what's like out of all the features that you have built in Newsletter Glue, what is the most used feature by your clients?
The most loved feature is our post embeds block. So should I share my screen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Because one thing I've observed that as a plugin developer or owner, we try to kind of like pack so many features in that. And there was one statistics I found somewhere. There was like research or study done. What they said is that in the world, all the software application that we use, whether it's a Slack or Google Doc, whatever we name it, the small or big, they said only 20 to 30% features that on an average, people use. 70 to 80% features are most of the times untouched and unused. And that was very surprising and shocking for me. I was like, wow, we just keep building more features, but we don't realize that, what are those features that actually are useful or making a difference?
Yeah, totally. I think I've really gotten a lot better at figuring out, I think a lot of things, so it stems from understanding your audience really, really well, right? And then once you understand, these are the people who are going to use it, and these are my best customers, then you have to talk to them like all the time. You want to become their best friend.
Right.
If they want to get on a Zoom call, get on a Zoom call. If they want to talk on Slack, get on Slack. Because you really want to know what they're doing with your product. So I always make myself super available, and I'm always learning new things. Like people are doing really unexpected things all the time, and I find it so valuable to learn from that. And I even though it's like takes a lot of time for me to like personally be replying to all of these people, I try my best to do it.
Right.
Okay, so let me just share my screen. So this is just one of our templates. So we call our blocks, we start all of our blocks with ng just so that it makes it easy to pull them up with the shortcut. I don't see other people doing that, but I like it.
I like that. Yeah, that's actually smart.
So this is our post embed block. What's a site that you visit all the time? Let's go there.
What's the site that I visit all the time?
Blocks.
Blocks. Okay.
Okay. So you can copy, then just paste the link in, and then it shows up. So it makes your life really, really easy if you are a newsroom and every day you have 10 posts posted, and then you need to send out your newsletter with all the 10 posts. This saves you literally hours. You can also search for existing posts. This is a demo site, so I'm not sure what. Okay, cool. So these are your existing posts. So if you know the title, you can just search for it and then it'll come out.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah. And then so there are formatting things that you can do as well. So 50/50. You can toggle off the image. So you just show the content. And everything is editable. So you can, if you want to change things, you can do it as well.
Nice.
Yeah, even the image is changeable. So you can change whatever image you want.
Yeah. No, I love that feature. I think it's very well thought, especially for the people who curate the newsletter from the variety of different sources, right? So yeah, this will be very handy and helpful. So this is your client's most favorite feature. What about you? What's your favorite feature, or any new feature that you're working on, that you want to talk about?
I don't know if I have a favorite feature. Let's see. We have our latest post block, which is very similar to the post embed block. The main difference is that it only loads posts. It loads posts from inside your. It loads posts from inside your site.
Okay.
So you can't add things from outside, but you can set it. We have like extensive filters. So it's something like the query loop block from the core blocks, but we have way more filters and options. So you can sort by various things, display different timings. So let's say you display only from the last 24 hours if you're sending like a daily digest, for example. We have a lot of filter options, so you can select the post type, select the category, select tags, authors. You can even create your own custom taxonomy filters.
Okay.
So yeah, if you have recipes or something, you can set all of that up really easily, events, things like that. And then we have the same display options as well. Yeah, so this is basically like the post embeds block, but a step further, because we built the post embeds block. That was one of the first blocks that we built 2 years ago.
Okay.
And this one we built this year or maybe last year. Oh yeah, last year. And so the amount of learning and expertise that my co-founder has in, from then and now is huge. So
Yeah.
I think he's also really proud of this block.
Nice.
Yeah, you can hide stuff as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
What about any
and
new
then
feature that you guys are working on?
yeah, so something that I'm really excited about is, I shouldn't show this, but never mind. And edit it out.
Our audience will be the first to see these new features, right? It's pre-launch preview.
Yeah. So we're still working on it. But basically, let me just give you an example. So in the past, we are using a combination of core blocks as well as our own custom blocks.
Okay.
So these are all core blocks that we basically put in a lot of work to transform the core blocks into email ready HTML, CSS markup. And it's very, very painful. And we're always trying to like stay ahead of it. If they change things, we have to change things. It causes conflict sometimes. It also means that the formatting, we have formatting issues. So it's kind of like fighting a little bit with the theme, with the blog theme. So there's just a lot of stuff that we have to kind of stay on top of, stay ahead of. Whereas with the, let's go out of here. With the new version that we're doing, we are building all of our own custom blocks. So these are the blocks that we've built so far. We've built it from scratch.
Okay.
They work exactly like you would expect. So like, let's say text or heading. Here's a heading. But the upside is that all of it is already email ready from the start.
Okay.
And we are not fighting with the blog theme anymore because it's only going to be the newsletter stuff. So it's very much what you see is what you get.
Right.
And then a huge one, which we have been waiting for literally years for Core to catch up, is the mobile options.
Yeah. So what
So
are the options for the writers when they write, or the newsletter looks good on
both.
both? Okay.
Yeah. So now you can change like that. So you can toggle between um desktop and mobile, and then you can change the size, you know, right there and then. Um, so there's just like so much more stuff that we can do.
Right.
Um, yeah, and I'm really, really excited about this because previously when we're trying to do stuff like to have really for bigger publishers when they want like really granular mobile options, the only
Mhm.
way is to add custom CSS. And now you can just do everything directly in the editor or in the template builder. And it's just so much nicer.
Nice.
Oops, okay, so still uh yeah, so all of these are custom built. So um they look similar to the core blocks, but they are all built from scratch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Well, good luck with the launch, and I'm sure your customers will love this feature because pretty much like a lot of different newsletter that nowadays people read, they read it from the phone as well. So I think it will be very important to have the newsletter well formatted for the mobile phone as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. So Lesley, now slowly we are going to move over to the other second part of where I like to discuss more about um, how do you manage the work-life balance. So before we go to that, I just want to sum up what we discussed about Newsletter Glue and your product business. So let's just sum up quickly that at this moment you have how many clients or installs you have that for the Newsletter Glue?
We have a few hundred
Okay.
customers right now. Yeah. We don't have a
Right.
free version anymore. So
Okay.
we just have customers.
Got it. And another thing is in terms of the total installs, right? Do you track that by any way?
We're not on the WordPress repository
Oh,
anymore.
correct. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So this,
Makes
yeah,
sense.
we shut it down. Yeah. I think after 1.5 years or something, we decided to shut it down.
Got it. No worries. All right. So yeah, so Newsletter Glue, we have over 100 customers plus. It has been 2.5 years, um, less than five to
Several
six.
hundred.
Yeah,
Yeah.
team members. Yeah, several hundred customers, and so yeah. So thanks for sharing that, and really well done with your success and everything that you have built so far. And now let's talk about um, the work-life balance. So I have some questions that I always feel that like we as a product owners or entrepreneurs in the space, we are always hustling and to grow our business, or right. And by doing so, uh, often we neglect the our life, so health and a lot of other things. So that's something that I personally realized that after growing my business for several years, that you mentioned about burnout, and I also had a burnout, and a lot of other the mental health issues that I've been to. So I always try to see how other entrepreneurs and the founders are struggling with this, or how what they are doing in order to be better at that. So my first question on that side is that, is there any books? So let's start with the books. That if do you read books? I assume.
Yeah, I read quite a lot of books.
Awesome. So is there any book that changed your life?
Can I share a fiction book?
Yeah, of course.
So I wouldn't say the book changed my life, but it's one of my favorite books.
Mm-hmm.
It's called A Closed A Closed and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers. She's also one of my favorite writers. it's actually book two of a series of books. The first book, I think, is quite well known. It's a sci-fi series. Um, the first book is called The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. Um, and like I said, yeah, it's more popular, but the second book is the one that I really, really love. And it makes me cry every time I read it.
Huh.
It's about it's two kind of intertwined it's two kind of intertwined stories. The first is about an AI who is given a physical body, um, not um, she's given a physical body without consent,
Hmm.
and now she has to grapple with what that means because she used to be a ship's AI, and then for various plot reasons, she she was given a body, so now she's like walking around in a physical space and trying to figure out what that means. And the second story that's interwound is a woman who was brought up by an AI. So she ran away from somewhere and then she lived inside a ship for many years, and the ship's AI basically brought her up. And she's trying to find that AI again,
Wow.
trying to save that AI.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so I think that it's especially interesting right now because everyone's so interested in AI. So if people are interested to think and like broaden their mind about what the world will look like if
Yeah.
we have artificial general intelligence. I
Right.
think this could be a pretty interesting book for them.
Nice. As you mentioned about AI, I also wanted to ask, like, how are you using AI tools in your work and life?
I think I'm not using it enough. But one fun way that I'm using it is I've been starting to record a podcast, and I have like a little lightning round in my podcast where I ask people about their likes, their interests, favorite foods, things like that.
Hmm.
And then as they're talking, I enter those things into ChatGPT
Okay.
and get it to write a limerick about them.
Interesting.
So at the end of the round, they get a little limerick.
Nice. Yeah, that's nice, fun and creative way to play around ChatGPT. Yeah, I started using ChatGPT I think over a year. In the beginning, it was just like fun way. I was just throwing some random questions and just having fun with that. But since I think it has been 2 months where I started seriously using ChatGPT and become a little bit more um, serious user in the sense where like now my prompts are not 1 or 2 lines, they are like basically
Oh,
500,000 words prompt. Yeah, so I learned that the more,
wait, did you say 500,000 word
yeah,
prompt?
500, 2,000 words. Yeah.
Oh, I thought 500,000.
No, 500, 2,000 words. So between 500 dash thousand words.
Wow.
Yeah. But I've seen that I also wrote about um, all my tips how to use ChatGPT on my newsletter last week, and where I kind of shared some of those prompts that I use. But what I noticed that observe that with ChatGPT, that if you write a good prompt and if you are very specific, then ChatGPT can give you really good results that you don't need to spend too much time tweaking it. So yeah. Any other tools beside
That's really
ChatGPT?
cool. No, I haven't explored that much. I'm afraid. Yeah, horrible.
All right. So then my next question is, do you have any advice or a tip for someone struggling with work-life balance?
Um, I think it depends because everyone's struggles are different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so if there's someone who is remote working and they have like a global team and they're doing a lot of 10 p.m. or midnight calls, that is a different struggle than somebody who is maybe struggling to get home at by 6 o'clock or by 7 o'clock every day from the office. I think the one tip that I can give that would probably apply to everybody is be very clear on what you value. Maybe even like write it down and stick it on your screen so that you're very clear on why you're doing what you're doing. And so, for some people, the value might be I want to make as much money as humanly possible. And
Hmm.
then for that person, maybe work-life balance is an excuse. Maybe they shouldn't have work-life balance. They should just be going crazy, working at 4 a.m. every day until they make like, whatever $1 billion they want to
Mm.
make.
Mm.
And in contrast, if somebody values family time, stick a picture of their kids on their screen or something, and the moment it's whatever time your company shuts off, 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. or 7 p.m., shut down the computer, go home, don't look at it until the next day because the thing that you value is your family time. So no
Mm.
excuses, right? I
Yeah.
think where it becomes difficult is when you let your boundaries get you. Firstly, you don't have boundaries, and then like you haven't drawn or articulated the boundaries for yourself. And secondly, you become flexible with your boundaries. You let
Mm.
people step all over them, or you let people push your boundaries a little bit too far. So if you stick what you value right there, no excuses, stick
Right.
with it. I think that can help.
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing that. I love that tip. And one thing that I have noticed that is, the biggest problem with the work-life balance, struggling with the work-life balance is autopilot mode. So most of the time we all are always in autopilot mode. We are not intentional about our time, not intentional about the task that we want to work on. And so I think that's where I noticed in the past that every time I will fall into either side of that, like too much work, or I will basically be just watching Netflix and not thinking about the work, right? So
Yeah.
in both those cases, what I have observed that when I'm not intentional, like I intentional about, what I want to accomplish in my life, and I think it's also tied to the values that you mentioned about. And in order to be intentional and stay consistent with intentions, one practice that has helped me a lot is designing a routine and creating
Mm.
a calendar. So every day when I put like, okay, what I'm going to do today, and when I have that clarity and routine, then I have seen that I am much more effective in terms of prioritizing, focusing on the work, but also doing things that I enjoy, like, the family or health or all other hobbies that I have. But yeah, I think those values, plus the tip that you shared about uh, putting the picture of your family or kids on your desk, that reminds you that, yeah, there is a life, that you need to go back to. I like that tip. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Um, I guess my next question is, do you have any productivity tip that helped you saving tons of time or energy that you want to share?
Um, I have two tips. To be honest, I'm like not very productive. And I think that goes back to also, that work-life balance values thing. So I think for me, the thing that I value the most is like I want to have fun. I want to enjoy my work. I don't want to, I'm not, maybe there's some people in WordPress who are in WordPress trying to become a billionaire, but I would tell them it's a very difficult route.
Mm-hmm.
So like for me, maybe they should go and build rockets or something, not be inside WordPress. But so for me, I just want to enjoy it. I want to enjoy the work. I want to keep on learning, be curious, enjoy the community, um, and have fun. And so, um, as a result, I wouldn't say I'm, one of those 5 a.m. wake up, like grind, work hard, go crazy, make $1 million in a week and like that kind of a person.
Mm.
So I wouldn't say I'm the best person to get productivity hacks from. But the two things that I would say that I do is the first is like a slippery slope kind of thing. So, slippery slope is usually mentioned in a negative way, but you can also use it in a positive way. So, for example, for me, when I don't feel like working, I find it very useful to just, if I'm, let's say, for example, I'm like looking at YouTube on my bed, being lazy or something, and because I work from home, and so I find I can, trick myself by, okay, I don't need to be YouTube on my bed. I can come to my desk and look at YouTube on my desk. And then while I'm like already on my desk, it's like a slippery slope. And so I'm like, oh, okay, since I'm already here, maybe I'll like look at my Gmail then oh, okay, now I'm like answering the Gmail, and then oh, okay, now maybe I should do some other work because I'm already at my desk. So
Nice.
I tricked myself into slippery slope into doing work.
Yeah, I
Um,
like that.
so that's one tip. Then the other tip is a naughty tip, which is sometimes there's work that you think you have to do, but actually you just don't need to do it. Um, like a lot of admin work is like that. A lot of busy work is like that.
Hmm.
Especially I think with um company, like if you own your company or if you are an entrepreneur, there's a lot less busy work because you are deciding what you want to do. But if you are an employee, there's often a lot of busy work, right? A lot of unnecessary meetings, a lot of unnecessary reports, a lot of unnecessary presentations. And I find oftentimes, like if you just don't do it, no one really says anything and it's fine as
Hmm.
long as you're doing like the main thing that you're hired to do. Like just think of how many, so-called annoying developers there are who are really great developers, but they never update their Jira or something like that, right? Like most of them are actually continue to get promoted, continue to get um, good reviews because they are doing good work. It's just that they are also, not being a team member, not being a team player, and they're not updating the Jira, and they're not responding to like Slack properly or stuff like that.
Right.
So that's like kind of a negative example, but the
Hmm.
reality is that there's actually so much of that kind of work that you can actually just not do, and you can kind of get away with it. Um, so it's like a naughty tip, but I think there are not enough people who are thinking about their jobs in that way.
Hmm.
Yeah. And if a company, so for example, with the example of the lead developer who is not updating tickets properly or something, like I think also that comes down to company culture. So there are some companies where they value actually the communication and updating and all that, and that person's not going to get promoted because they're being not a team player and antisocial. So I think like those constraints come down to the company culture and how they deal with that, and it's not really a problem of the person. Um, yeah, so I guess that's coming into like a totally separate topic, but just wanted to mention that as well, I guess.
Yeah. Awesome. So Lesley, I think we are gonna wrap it up from here. I have two last questions, and the first one is, who should I interview next from the WordPress community? That
You
you
should interview Pete Erickson from Leaky Paywall.
okay?
He's doing some really interesting things with his paywall plugin called Leaky Paywall.
Mm-hmm.
And he's someone that I talk to a lot, and we work in very similar space. We have a lot of overlap in terms of customers, and um, he's he shared so much with me, and I'm sure that he'll be an awesome guest on your show.
Great. Yeah, Pete and I we connected I think last year, and yeah,
Oh, cool.
he's very talented and a really nice human being. I really had a good conversation with him. So yeah, I would love to have him as a guest. And in fact, he's already on my list as one of the future guests. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. I'll definitely um, ping him and see when he's available. And I think the last question is that how can people find you online and learn more about your work?
Um, so I am on Twitter, less these days, but still a lot, at Lesley underscore pizza, Lesley underscore pizza. And you can also find me
That'll
on
be
the
very
post
easy to
status.
remember, the pizza.
Yeah. Yeah, you can also find me on the post status Slack. Lesley, I think I'm just Lesley there as well. Yeah,
Cool.
and WordPress.org. I think I'm in the Slack there as well. I can't remember what it's called, but I'm sure if you just type in Lesley, there aren't that many. Um, and my face is the same. It's the same avatar everywhere, so you should be able to find me.
Nice. And we will put all these details in our show notes as well. So anyone who wants to learn more about you or your product, they can easily go and check that out. Great.
Awesome.
Leslie, it was a really great talking to you. Thanks for sharing all the tips about work-life balance and some of your book suggestions, but also sharing your journey and product story. plus how you grow, how you got your 10 clients and 100 clients, and some of those things, I think, in my opinion, has been very useful and valuable, especially those who are just starting and a product business, or want to grow a product business from 0 to 100 or 1,000 clients.
Thanks so much, Anil. I really enjoyed chatting with you as well.
You're welcome. All right, I'm gonna pause here.